Get this, guys, this game is already breaking the record books. The National Weather Service issuing a rare heat advisory with temperatures possibly topping 90 degrees. And did I mention it's February? And Hollywood's biggest night is also date night for two real-life movie star couples, Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst, Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem. During that confrontation, already going down as one of the most talked about moments and most shocking moment in Oscar history. Liz, the cell phone video is the featured evidence, the star witness, so to say, and both sides agree that it is critical in this case. But for the family of Ahmaud Arbery, it was incredibly difficult to watch, incredibly difficult to hear. In fact, his mother breaking down as that video played out during opening statements. And Blue Origin still keeping a close watch on these high winds. They've sent up weather balloons to monitor what's happening in the upper level atmosphere. And as of right now, the launch is still a go for tomorrow morning. The Free Britney chants that we've been hearing for the past few hours outside of the courthouse, now a reality. The judge terminating that conservatorship. And judging by the explosion of cheers and excitement, I think they share that relief with Daunte Wright's family, especially considering kind of the mixed signals that we had been getting from the jury over the past, I'd say 48 hours. Of course, with Tuesday, that question to the judge, hey, what happens if we don't reach a verdict? As for the situation here on the ground, of course, this is a desperate search. This is the largest Florida task force response aside from hurricane response. So as we're talking about severe weather moving in, there's that possibility that crews might have to break away. We know that the president has already previously approved a disaster declaration for the state of Florida. We know that he's going to be meeting with first responders, also talking with family members during this difficult time. But as for the response, we have to expect that there would be a continued dialogue about more resources.
The storm also spawned a rare winter tornado that tore through western Alabama, killing one person and critically injuring three others. ABC's Morgan Norwood has the latest.
As that massive winter storm marches across the country, 160 million Americans in 35 states on alert for snow, ice, flooding rain, and brutal cold. In Ohio, the winds whipping the frigid cold air and the snow, narrowing visibility. ABC's Trevor Ault on the ground in Cleveland.
Torrents of rain ahead of this snowfall washed all of the salt off the roads, and now all that rain is frozen. The crews are trying to play catch up now, but the roads are so icy, at least one of these plows was hit by a car this morning.
In Tennessee, trees collapsing under the weight of thick ice. Over in Detroit, the city bracing for a massive snowplow operation, expecting another several inches.
We've been preparing for this storm early last week.
The storm's path extending as far south as Texas, nearly a year after a catastrophic freeze buckled the state's power grid in one of the worst blackouts in U.S. history. Officials say so far the grid is holding, though conditions did trigger outages.
We are dealing with one of the most significant icing events that we've had in the state of Texas in at least several decades.
Over in Alabama, a tornado leaving serious damage in Sawyerville. At least one person killed, several injured. As the winter storm continues to stretch toward the east, thousands of flights canceled. Travelers just hoping to catch a break.
It's right in the middle of the storm. I was checking the Doppler. So, again, just fingers crossed. I can't control it.
Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles. After a false start to launch week, former NFL great and GMA anchor Michael Strahan, along with his Blue Origin teammates, are finally ready for liftoff.
It's going to be an adventure, but it's going to be a fun one.
Strahan and other crew members were originally slated to rocket to space aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard Thursday. The mission postponed due to high winds.
If those winds are really strong at 10,000 feet, it can actually blow our capsule outside of our landing area.
And when it comes to safety, the crew is prepped for it all.
Learning how to buckle up in zero G, learning how to get in your seat in the first place.
Sure.
Learning the access control panel, the crew control panel.
Strahan will travel to low orbit alongside 5 others, including Alan Shepard's daughter, whose dad was the first American in space and who the spacecraft is named after. We got a look inside the exact replica of the rocket. So this capsule has some of the biggest windows in the space industry. And check this out. Each of the crew members get their own. They also have a screen that tells them everything that's going on with the flight.
So what are you going to be doing when you're inside?
Well, I'm gonna try to do some flips, and then I'll stay by my window and you all enjoy yourself in the freedom of floating.
But as much as Michael says he'll be taking in the sights, he's also taking up a few personal items to make this trip even more memorable.
My Hall of Fame ring, my Super Bowl ring, some special watches. And the most special thing to me, when my father passed away and they had his military funeral, the bullets that they fired from the gun.
And just like the last Blue Origin missions, the crew will experience about 3 minutes of weightlessness the entire flight, just 11 minutes long, and the capsule will then parachute back down to Earth. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Van Horn, Texas. Blanketed across the Dolby Theater, the red carpet is now ready to showcase Hollywood's biggest and brightest. And in just hours, we'll find out which stars are taking home that coveted Oscar gold. This year's show returning after a 3-year host hiatus with a history-making 3 female MCs, Wanda Sykes, Regina Hall, and Amy Schumer.
It's a big party, right? That's why I wanted to do it.
And nothing screams a party like music. Like Oscars past, there will be performances, but this year they're live. And while the show producers haven't revealed the full list of performances, turns out we can talk about Bruno. The 94th Annual Academy Awards ceremony will feature the first ever live performance of Disney's Encanto anthem. Though we don't talk about Bruno wasn't submitted for Best Song, Encanto is nominated in 3 categories.
With Encanto, it's just the fact that it's connected with so many families and it's given families a new vocabulary to talk about their own families.
Another fan favorite could also win big. Coda up for Best Picture and Screenplay, with Troy Kotsur favored to win Best Supporting Actor. He's the second actor who is deaf to be nominated for an Oscar. Marlene Matlin, who plays his wife in the film, was the first.
Troy Kotsur has really caught the imagination of a lot of moviegoers, I think, people who love the movies with his performance in Coda. Coda is sort of become the people's choice.
And back here at Dolby Theater, the red carpet really starting to take shape. These screens have gone up and crews are working to put the finishing touches ahead of Hollywood's biggest night. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Hollywood. When Dr. Safiya Noble curiously searched black girls on the internet, she expected to see images and links for supportive organizations and other generic topics. But instead, she says her search returned pornography featuring black women and girls.
Of course, there's a long history that predates search engines about hypersexualizing girls and women of color. It's different when you're using something like Google or a search engine like a fact checker, like a truth teller.
Dr. Noble is an internet studies scholar and professor in gender and African American studies at UCLA. She says her disturbing discovery back in 2011 led her to write her 2018 book, Algorithms of Oppression, exploring her findings on how racism and sexism are woven into the programming content that users are exposed to every day.
What do you say to someone who says an algorithm can't be racist?
So we have to think about algorithms and technology, artificial intelligence, as human products, human constructs. They are not just mathematical formulations. That's too reductionist. They must be interacting with human beings and the planet to be relevant. And it's in that relevance, that's where our concerns are.
Dr. Noble says there are real-world and dangerous consequences to algorithmic oppression. For example, in the case of convicted Charleston church murderer Dylann Roof, who talked about how his internet research supported his white supremacist ideology.
So many people think they're just looking for information, and they think it's just fact that they're engaging with, and they have no idea that it's, hateful propaganda.
In a statement to ABC News, Google says many of the very valid concerns raised in Dr. Noble's book were already improved by these efforts at the time of publication, and we continue to invest in making search better for everyone. Since new content is published online every day, we're constantly updating our systems to make sure we're providing helpful results. Despite those changes, Dr. Noble says there's still more to do. The MacArthur Foundation recently named her one of 25 fellows, issuing her a $625,000 grant known as its Genius Grants. She's using the money to launch her new nonprofit equity engine dedicated to supporting women of color and youth working at the forefront of digital, civil, and human rights.
We have to care about digital civil rights and digital human rights and what happens in these spaces because it affects our civil rights and our human rights everywhere.
Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles.